In 5. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today in the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher, and thank you, Sally Sussman, for that beautiful opening. The NBC daytime drama Generations premiered on March 27th, 1989, and aired its final episode on January 25th, 1991. Joining us today to take a look back at this show are creator and executive producer Sally Sussman, along with cast members Jonelle Allen, who played Doreen Jackson, George DelHoyo, who played Rob Donnelly, Rick Fitz, who played Martin Jackson, Kelly Rutherford, who played Sam Whitmore, Nancy Sorel, who played Monique McCallum, and Robert Torti, who played Kyle Masters. Generations focused on the relationship between two Chicago families, the Whitmores and the Marshalls. As Mimi Torchin wrote in the New York Times at the time, this new show has something novel to offer fans of the genre. Generations will introduce daytime television's first Black family as a central focus into what has up to now been a conspicuously white-dominated world. NBC's catchphrase said it all: black and white in color. Fans have been asking for this reunion, and I'm thrilled that we have this incredible lineup here with me today. Please welcome to the Locker Room Jonelle Allen, George DelHoyo, Rick Fitz, Kelly Rutherford, Nancy Sorel, Robert Torti, and Sally Sussman. Sally,
Thank
Rick,
you.
Bob,
Hey,
Kelly, Nancy, and Jonelle. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for being here. Like I said backstage, the fans have been asking for this forever. George should be with us momentarily. Sally, thank you for that beautiful opening.
I wish I wrote it.
Sally, just take us back. NBC approached you. I think it was Brandon Tartikoff.
Correct. What happened? Yeah. We have to sort of flash back a little bit. It's about 30 years ago. Essentially, what was going on in daytime back then, you had CBS and ABC who had very strong lineups, and they had the affiliate stations of those two networks carrying their schedule exactly as CBS had laid it out. NBC, on the other hand, was a perennial third place in daytime. It was kind of a running joke at NBC because primetime was so successful, yet daytime was a disaster. And what happened was they decided that they wanted to have a show that they produced themselves so that they could
own, so they made more money.
Correct. So that they could sell it overseas. They had seen the success that New World had had with Santa Barbara, and they wanted to emulate that. So when they approached me, it was a sort of a good news, bad news situation. What became a blessing in the beginning to have the show in-house produced by the network became a curse at the end because it was their money. So they looked at this pot of money that they were spending on Generations, which at the time maybe was $15 million. And they said, oh, we can use this money. This is our NBC money. We're not doing so well now in prime time. So we're going to cancel this show and save this money.
And didn't Brandon, give you a mission?
Yes. When the show was picked up, our mission was to make this show topical. That didn't mean political or anything like that. What it meant was topical, relatable, and current to the times that we were living in. You know, it was set in a real city for a reason. It wasn't in a pretend city. And we were trying to go with a very topical approach, which I think we did. But that's what he wanted. And he was very much the champion of the show.
Right.
And unfortunately,
suggested that one of the main families should be Black. And tell me what your first thought was.
So when we talked about the concept of the show, so this was extremely early on in the process, I had the idea of the two family approach because I always felt that that was a good anchor. And the concept originally was one family economically on the way up and one family kind of economically and socially on the way down. And at the time, Brian Franz, who was the head of NBC Daytime, said to me, what if you make one of the families African American? And I went, oh, that's brilliant. Because what went through my mind immediately was there are so many great African American actors out there who have not gotten a ton of work. I know we're going to be able to get some amazing people. And that was my first thought. And we could get some amazing actors, which meant that you could write some hopefully great stories. And just visually, right from the get-go, you would have a show that would look different. Wow. And as it turned out, we had an amazing cast of African-American actors and an amazing cast of Caucasian actors. But that was initially my first thought creatively, because I thought we could use traditional soap archetypes, like just talking to Rick before about the character of Martin Jackson. Right. Martin Jackson was intended as a very complex character, a villain-esque type. So while he had the qualities of a J.R. Ewing, he also was a very loving man who adored his wife and wanted, to be a success. So you could play with those archetypes, but you could cast them differently, which would make the storytelling somewhat fresher and hopefully a little bit less predictable.
Great. Well, George is joining us, so everybody, please welcome George DelHoyo to the Locker Room.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, George.
Hey, George.
Hey, you guys. Great to see you.
Great to see you, George.
Good to see you.
Awesome. Look at you. I'm just taking you all in. You look
beautiful. Take everybody in. So everybody here, the show debuted in 1989. Can you take me back what you remember about hearing that there was a new daytime soap coming to NBC and about your roles? If Kelly, you want to go first? Kelly, you muted yourself.
I did. Sorry. Yeah, I remember it so well. I remember because it was one of my first jobs. I had done a couple things like in New York, and then I had just moved to LA, and I think I was 20 at the time. I'm going to be 53 this year. So it was a few years ago. And
it was college for you.
I know, it was my college. It was 18 months of, incredible training for me as an actress. And I fell in love with the whole cast and with Sally. And it was just such a beautiful experience. And I remember they were deciding what roles Nancy and I would play or something. There was something they were deciding who would play what. And then Brandon Tartikoff said that his daughters wasn't Sally, but said, oh, she should play that role. So basically I got the part because of Brandon Tartikoff's daughters, who were like 10 at the time.
I think she was even younger than that at the time. That's funny.
Yeah, they were like kids. And that's probably what I would do now too, is I'd be like, all right, guys, kids have such good,
Yeah, they make good
intuition.
choices.
Yeah, they're honest, whatever.
What did you love about Sam?
I loved her freedom, like from what I remember, and I loved the relationship with George. I mean, I think I was in love with George and the character was in love with George at the same time. So it was, a crush for me and the character. And I think for me, it was like the character was just very free. for at that time, you know, Sally wrote a very strong woman character who was a young woman who was super strong. You know, I remember her being for that time, and for me, I felt very empowered in the role. It was beautiful.
I would love to see where Sam is today.
Oh my God.
I think
true.
the fans would too. Rick, what about you? What do you remember about, you know, Martin and your audition and your screen test, maybe?
Well, I remember that I had never been offered or given a part of a quote unquote villain. And this was that first opportunity I had to do that. I'd always played like really nice guys and stuff like that. So for me, it was a real treat because it's really fun playing a villain because you can do really dastardly things in all kinds of different ways, you know? And I also liked how complex he was too, because he was so in love with Jonelle, with Doreen. And he was such a, you know, he makes me laugh. He was such a mover and shaker and just like, I remember a scene one time, because my plan in it was to do really, really bad things very nicely. And I remember doing a scene with the cast, and Joan Pringle, I guess, who couldn't be here today, was in the scene with me. And we finished the scene, and Joan just went, which is probably one of the best compliments you could ever have when you're playing that kind of character, you know? So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the funny thing is, after that, all I was ever offered or auditioned for a long time was villains.
Oh,
Well, people took notice.
Yeah, I couldn't get one before that, and then after that, you know. But it was fun. I also want to say that Jonelle, to this day, is still one of the best acting partners I've ever had. You know, we just clicked, and we would just go there. You know,
well,
and
the show opened with you two as a successful couple, a husband and wife who, you know, had been together for a number of years. So the two of you had to make the audience buy that instantaneously.
Exactly. And we had a lot of fun doing that, didn't we, Jonelle? I don't know if she can hear us.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's having a little internet trouble. Nancy, what about you? What do you remember, you know, about hearing about this role? And
oh, well, the excitement. I was living in New York City, and
yeah, my off and on for
what's that? Oh, I couldn't hear that.
Jonelle's having internet troubles.
Oh, okay. Well, I was living in New York, and they had the auditions. I was doing One Life to Live at the time. And I remember I had never been to Los Angeles before. So just going there for the screen test was so exciting.
Who did you screen test with?
Anthony.
Nice.
Yep. Anthony Adabo.
I worked with Anthony on Guiding Light. Great human being.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but very sad story. That was just tragic.
Taken way too soon from all of us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes. And we just had just a magical moment. Just I felt like I had known him my entire life.
Wow.
And then just a little funny story. I had never been to NBC before, and I was running. I don't know why. I think I had to change my sweater or something. I was wearing a sweater and it wasn't right, and I didn't have anything else. And they said, "Well, you need to wear something else." And I was running to the dressing room, and boom! I smacked right into a gentleman. And I look up, and it was Johnny Carson.
Oh.
And I went, "You know, Johnny Carson." I know.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I just knew. I got these chills. And I said, "I'm going to get this part. I know it. I just know it." That was a sign.
I love that. That's a great story.
That is I never knew that story.
Yeah. It's a great memory. And then
Bob,
I was living in Los Angeles. Yeah.
yeah, it brought you out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Bob, for you?
I had just come back from New York. My first Broadway show was Starlight Express. So I had done that, and it was a whole lifetime ago. That was my practice marriage. I didn't want to leave New York. I loved it. I loved Broadway, but we did. And things happen for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So I did hear about it. I was doing the amazing thing about soaps is that they love theater people because you're 3-4 camera live, So I had a lot of opportunity. I played, oh God, I think was it Capitol? Was Capitol in New York?
No. The TV show?
The soap opera.
No, that was out here.
California.
Yeah.
Okay, there was another one, and I remember playing this character, and his name was Blaze, and all he did was walk around with his no shirt and a leather jacket. So it was like, great time thing. You know what I'm saying? But I heard about the audition, and still to this day, I've never turned down an audition or turned down a job. That's just foolish, personally. And luckily enough, the screen test, I tested with Kelly. I feel we had a good match, and there you go.
Kelly and Bob, what do you remember about the screen test?
I think there was a lot of giggling going on.
I am not surprised. Yeah, no, we had fun. I think that's what was so beautiful is I think we all really, I could speak for, I loved each other. I think there was a real chemistry between all of us. I mean, Bob and I were just like, I don't know. I think there was just so much like real love going on, like a real feelings and love. And I think Sally really set the tone there and everyone. It was like a family in a way. But
the chemistry was just, you couldn't.
Natural.
It was very natural. You could cut it with a knife. It's just, and that's what it is. I've been blessed to have that on a few jobs. And then there's where the acting chops come in when you're with somebody going, I will kill you. As soon as we stop tape. But that wasn't the case with Kel. She was awesome. And everybody, see, the thing is, they were already established. I came in. I was the new guy.
That's right.
So that's always hard to do because, you don't just have to fit on camera,
Yeah.
Bob, I had a question about Starlight Express. Did you perform, if you remember, on Regis and Kathy Lee?
I before the Tonys, I got called up to go on with Terrence Mann. So the crazy thing about New York, and I didn't know this, and we were talking about technology, that how this couldn't happen back then. I was out. I didn't know when the nominations were. I didn't know anything. This was my first Broadway show. And how I got it, I still don't know. And I come home to my answering machine, like smoking, because there's so many messages. And every message was, oh my God, congratulations, call me. Oh my God, you got to call me. This is your agent, call me. And I was like, about what? And so then I had heard that, I got nominated. So it was like, I was just blown away. I was absolutely blown away. But yeah, so I was on Regis and Kathy Lee, yes.
I worked there then, and I remember you guys performing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why when I saw your background, I saw that. Hey, George, what about yourself? What do you remember? Playing the professor, having an affair with Ms. Rutherford.
Right. First of all, thanks for organizing this, Alan. It's a great idea.
You're wonderful. So welcome.
Thank you.
It's all the fans, George. They have been asking me for a long time, so thank you.
Well, awesome. God bless all our fans, really. Yes, the fact that people care and remember the show is heartwarming and really
there's a
it affects me deeply.
Well, we're going to talk about the fans and some things because I agree. I mean, I think look at, we're in 2021 talking about a show that went off in 1991.
It's crazy.
And there's still a huge fan base in Turkey and in Poland.
Yes,
Wow.
I know that, and I'm going to come to Kelly about a story of her going over there, because I hear
Wow.
there's a very funny story, Kelly. But
Wow.
George,
Yes, sir. Yes. Anyway, Alan, thanks for this. And again, I'm just so thrilled to see all of your faces, to see you all. I apologize for being a little late to the party. You mentioned, Alan, the beginning. You said the opening of the show. You mentioned and how it started. It got me thinking. The opening of the show was incredible. The opening of the show was a soap, a fake soap, a made-up soap that you thought you were watching. Wow, this is Generations, and you're watching this made-up soap
That's
for
right.
quite a
Oh my
while,
God.
and I'm sure people are thinking, wow, is this like the latest new thing? And then all of a sudden you pull back, and you're in a room, and I come out of a shower in a towel, steaming, and then of course there's Kelly there, Sam, was always steaming, and and we have this scene, and you go, wait, they're watching a soap, and it was so clever, Sally, what you did. It was such a nice misdirect, and it was just great. It was I remember reading that thinking, oh, this is just the best, So yeah, my memories are, I remember meeting Sally the first time, and I think it was with Rudy. I think
Rudy.
the wonderful another person that we lost, unfortunately, during while we were doing the show.
Yeah, shortly after, I think.
Yeah,
But yes.
he was a wonderful man, director, and producer. And anyway, he so the two of you, I met with the two of you, and I think at NBC here in Burbank, and not far from here. And anyway, you guys just told me the idea, and I don't know how I had come to your attention, but you basically just said, "Do you want to do this?" And it was wonderful. I said, "Wow, that sounds
I
fantastic."
think, George, if I remember, I hadn't been watching Days at that point, but I know you had been on Days.
Right.
And people had told us that you had been on Days. And I think I turned it on, or I look, let's just face it, George was going to get the part no matter what. Okay. Anyone who looks like that. I mean, he just exuded. He was the right temperament, the right mood, the right look for that part. Ironically, in today's world, George would have lost his job immediately.
in the movement, yes.
I can see a whole other year of storyline that we could have gotten out of that if it were today.
Yeah, but I remember. So I remember that opening, and it was really steamy too. It was good stuff. But coming out of that fake soap was awesome. And I remember meeting you, Sally, and I remember, of course, Kelly. We had such a good time.
So much fun.
So much fun. I mean, just as you mentioned kindly, the chemistry. I remember telling my wife every day, I said, well, I got to go slave over a hot 20-year-old.
George, somebody's got to do it, George. Somebody's got to do it.
But it was just, we just had so much fun. And we all did. I think it was, I think maybe it was Robert mentioned the chemistry that we all had, that it was palpable, and we felt like a family. We socialized a lot. I remember going to Bob's house to see fights. Remember your starter marriage thing, that whole period, and we had kids together. We had babies. Remember, we had you and I and the late wonderful
Kristoff. God bless him. Yeah,
I still have a cover of one of the magazines. The three of us holding our brand new babies.
Yeah,
incredible. Now those babies are grown up. I'm sure your son and my daughters are engaged, and they're
my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Pictures of Kelly and my home with the girls and with Alexandra, who just loved Kelly. And so I just have nothing but the most wonderful memories. And I just want to add one thing. I just recently watched, and I hadn't seen it in, I don't know, 15, 20 years, a piece of video of our show, just some stuff that had been edited together. I don't remember why I was editing something because I am occasionally going back to days and doing that character I did even prior to this when they oddly enough called me back. But in any case, I was looking at a piece of film or tape of our stuff, Kelly, and the show and Generations, and I was in my room watching it, and I called and my wife came and said, "What are you watching?" I said, "Can you watch this? This is old stuff that I." She said, "Oh my gosh, this is really, really good. Really good." I go, it is, right? I mean, it really is. I mean, even if you just compare it to what's going on today, it holds up. It's so good. It's dynamic. It's alive. The actors are alive. There's so much passion, so much investment. We're all really invested, and and as I'm sure you'll touch in a moment, Alan, it's just so ahead of its time. It's just like groundbreaking.
So
like,
ahead of its
we're
time.
literally like 20 years ahead of where everything was going, and it's incredible. I'm thrilled to have been a part of such a groundbreaking show.
You were talking about the babies.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, wow.
There he
Oh,
is.
wow.
Look at
My
that.
God.
That's awesome.
And how
buddy.
old is he now?
He's going to be 33 this year.
Wow.
That's
That is
incredible.
awesome.
Incredible. Just incredible.
So speaking of groundbreaking, for all of you, did you have any idea at the time how groundbreaking it was? I mean, now that you've had, the time to look back, but at that time, do you think you all realized that?
I did, because it was like, we weren't red car syndrome. You didn't see a bunch of red cars. We were so different from everybody else, which alone right there, focusing on the two families was genius. So
at the time, I had shown you this the other day, Alan.
Right. Well, hold on, Sally. I
Oh.
want to say something, an intro to that. Sally told me, which, like I said to some of you, I worked in PR at As the World Turns and Guiding Light before this. Sally told, first of all, you had Mimi Torchin's amazing New York Times article. You had a Time and Newsweek piece the week the show launched. And Sally's going to hold up a press book that a new daytime soap generated this amount of press is incredible.
This was put together for me by NBC, and it shows just the amount. This was only pre-launch. Okay, this was before.
Wow.
There's no question that NBC did an absolutely fantastic job of promoting the show. It became apparent to me as we were getting all this attention that it was that groundbreaking, which I felt a little sad about, honestly, because at the time I thought, okay, yes, we are doing something groundbreaking, I guess. I kind of feel a little bad that it took this long. You know what I mean? In other words, it wasn't, I was glad that we were doing something different, which was what I wanted right from the beginning. Because how else were we going to get attention with a show like Y&R and shows like All My Children? I mean, these shows were juggernauts in terms of audience. Plus, they had networks supporting them. NBC affiliates did not support their daytime schedule, so we didn't even know when Generations would be on the air in any given market. But NBC did an incredible job of promoting the show. And with the sense that it was groundbreaking, we embraced that, obviously, and played into that. But I remember at the time going, wow, this is great. And remember, this was 1989, which I thought was kind of late to do all this. Now here we are in 2021, and we're saying still it was ahead of its time. And I kind of feel it might be ahead of its time today.
Right. Jonelle and Rick, as Black actors coming into a show that was attempting to be groundbreaking, can you talk about the impact of that as an actor and as someone as part of the Black community witnessing it in real time? How did it feel to the two of you?
You want to go first, Jonelle? Is she still frozen? Yeah, I think so. Well,
Yeah.
I liked it because I wasn't any kind of stereotype. I was just a guy who loved his family, who happened to be wealthy. She's saying something. I can't tell what she's saying.
Yeah, she's having some trouble. Continue, Rick. Sorry.
You know, like I said, the character was so complex, and I remember that I didn't think I could memorize all those words. So I would be waiting at the writer's door when the script was finished, and get the script. And after a while, you know, because it is a muscle memory, after a while, I would watch myself being paranoid about learning the lines as I'm learning them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so for me, yes, just the fact that I wasn't stereotyped, it was a part that was written for me to play. You know, it was just it hit all the notes in my life, how I've lived my life, and you know, except for the bad behavior, of course.
The villainous part. The villainous part.
Yeah, exactly. But I had just such a good time. Like I said, Jonelle was just a wonderful acting partner. We were so available for each other, and we would just go for it. You know, we just there was no holding back, and that was really, really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I buy that. One of our fans, Candace, was asking, did you ever expect how much of a lasting impact the show, the characters, and the storylines would still have with the fans today?
Who's she asking?
All of you.
Oh.
I think you know a lot of no, of course not. But thanks to YouTube and what George was talking about, when you go on YouTube and you see a lot of the scenes, that's why I wish we could hear Jonelle, because there's some great scenes of her on YouTube as well. You realize that it does hold up extremely well, and it still looks good. So thanks to YouTube, I think it's helped keep it alive, the internet. Obviously, when it got canceled, you don't expect, you expect people to remember it, of course. I remember shows from 50 years ago, but I don't think I expected it to last this long, because I wasn't anticipating the internet and YouTube.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think people relate to, I think, you can relate to the families, you can relate to the relationships. And it felt very, it felt very, I don't know the words. It's like it felt very real. A lot of these shows don't. I mean, I'm an actor. I can say that. I mean, I don't watch a lot, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of these shows, I don't know if there's as much connectivity with the characters and the actors in like from the heart space, if that makes sense, that we shared. I feel like we all kind of knew we were doing something and had a lot of freedom to do it, and really out there fun storylines to create it. And it was such a beautiful, magical moment in time. So the fact that people still can, align with that it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, because I think that never goes, out of style or time, is the connection when you watch a show between, because you could tell behind the scenes we were having fun too, and a connection, I think.
Yeah. Jonelle, can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I've got so much to say.
Good.
First of all, it's great seeing everybody. But I wanted to say, when Bob, because I know you guys fine, and when Bob Torti said about being nominated for Tony and get the answer machine, when I was nominated for my Tony, it was Carrier Pigeon. And so anyway, and so when the Carrier Pigeon got to the house in Harvard, I was, oh yay, I'm up for Best Actress. But so and when you're asking about generations, for me, generations, prior to that, I'd always played roles that were quote unquote not ethnically whatever. I mean, I was nominated for Tony for Two Gentlemen of Verona, playing the Princess of Milan. Then prior to that, the series I did for NBC was called Behringer. It was a nighttime soap, and I had a role in it before Diana came into Dynasty. And then I did a series with Norman Lear and Haley called Palmerstown, USA. And that was the first primetime drama that had a Black core family, and not a sitcom. And so to me, I always felt when I heard of Generations, a friend having lunch with a friend, and he was going to have an audition for it. And I hadn't heard of the show. And I said, wow, that's interesting. And it was, and so I talked to my agent. They said, okay, we'll get you in for, got me in for an audition. And prior to that, I had a contract. I had an NBC contract back in the day, so I still had kind of connections to the network. But I remember going in for my audition and getting a call saying it was good, but Sally isn't sure you're sexy enough. And so, yeah, Sally, they put it on you. And so anyway, they said, can you come back and put write a scene, and you come back. And I was doing a play down at Locher Theater Center. And we were in rehearsal. And I remember getting the sides for the scenes, and I remember going down to Spring Street getting because they have like the hot tub area down there, and so I remember getting like this sexy peignoir and this like little short kind of thing. I mean, it was just it was insane, crazy. And I went back with the audition, and Rick was my partner in it. And I just remember I had a perfume bottle. I was just like, okay, if they don't think I'm sexy, I'm just whatever. And I started singing, some old song and eardrums in the audition. I was just like, I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose.
Fun.
And so a couple of days later, I was sexy enough because I got the role.
You got the part. Hey, Jonelle, can you turn your iPad?
No, this is my phone. I am so happy I can get it.
Yeah, you can. If you turn your phone, then you'll be full screen.
No.
You have it unlocked. Okay, that's fine.
I'm just so happy I'm there. Yeah. But I just want to say one other thing.
Yes, please.
Because I didn't have a chance to talk. When I thought, it was like I didn't know, it was like Sally Sussman. And I'm like, well, this woman doesn't think I'm sexy. Well, blah, blah, blah. And so Sally shows up, but I don't know Sally. I think it's some teenage PA. And I'm like, and she's like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, hello, how are you? Fine. Where's Sally? And so and I thought that woman, I forget what her name was. She was an older woman who was a writer. I thought she was Sally. I thought it was like, an Agnes Nixon reality. But there was Sally, who looked like a teenager. Sally, you were wearing like bobby socks, weren't you? I mean, you really look like a teenager. And I've got to say, I had so much fun doing that show. And they did that night for Vivica. It's hilarious how many the LGBTQ community, it's like that's their ringtone. I mean, it is. You'd hear, how dare you? And I'm like, what is that? I'm hearing my voice and I'm hearing Vivica and I'm in West Hollywood and it's a ringtone.
Well, fans have been asking about the cat fight, knowing that you were going to be here. They all wanted to hear about the cat fight. So you are 100% correct.
About the cat fight, I want to give a shout out to one of our great writers, Michelle Valjean and Tom Racina, Bruce Neckles, Meg Bennett, late Elizabeth Harrow. We had a great team, but that particular scene was a ton of fun to write, which was written really in the room with us acting out. But Michelle, put that scene on paper, that scene, you know, that again, if you go on YouTube, I think it's got millions and millions of views. But Jonelle and Vivica poured themselves into that scene. I mean, they really did, you know. And I think we talked about it. It was motivated, Jonelle. It was motivated. You could feel that this was a long time coming. A lot of times with cat fights, you know, they're just an excuse to get two women fighting. You don't feel that it's really been built. I always felt that that was incredibly well motivated.
Yeah, and also what was good about it is that, you know, Vivica and I were sports about it because I'm a dancer. I have a dance background, and so does she. So it was sort of like initially it was like, okay, we'll have a stunt person, and we're like, no, we want to do it. We want to do it. We want to do it, and that made it really, I think, exciting as well, because it wasn't like cutting away being dresses. You actually were, the camera was right in there with us, and it was great. And sadly, when Kristoff passed away and we were at his memorial, and I hadn't seen her since then. Since, you know, we did the show, and so we were together. So Michelle Beljean and Vivica and I, we did a little video, and Michelle held the camera, and at Kristoff's at Kristoff's memorial, did a little homage to Maya and Doreen, and that got a lot of hits because Instagram thing, because people wanted to know what happened to the ladies, what happened, you know, and but then after Glamorous Generation, for 8 years West in the white on the old West, and long dresses on Dr. Quinn, which was fun too. So
yeah,
I feel very fortunate.
That's awesome. Device is still on because you're getting a little echo. If one of the devices is still on, try to turn that off. Nancy and Kelly, some fans wanted to hear some memories about Kristoff. If your memories of working side by side with him.
Well, my favorite was his work. Well, I'll never forget the day his son Julian was born. That's always a memory that's just branded into my mind. That day we were working, we were shooting, and he got the call that his partner Maya, I think, what
was her name?
Mia.
Was
Mia.
late.
Yeah.
And so we had to push all of his scenes. Like, we had to quickly shoot as much as we could so he could get to the hospital in time. And I don't know, that's just a memory that whenever I think back to those days, that's a memory that always sticks.
Yeah,
So
I remember.
Fun, so sweet. Not always the best at remembering his lines. I remember that. And we used to tease him about that good-naturedly, absolutely. But very gentle. Fun, strong, obviously, gorgeous, but gentle.
Mm-hmm.
I always
to meet Kristoff was to love Kristoff. You couldn't meet Kristoff and not care about him instantly. Kristoff's kind, and he led with his affection and his love and his interest in whomever he was meeting. He was just a special guy.
Yeah, he's such a tender, kind human being. You know, everyone wished that he was their brother or their husband, or, you know, I don't know, as he got older, probably, you know, but we were all.
He had Kristoff had a magnetic quality on camera.
So beautiful.
Really, you know, we auditioned a lot of people for the role of Adam, a lot of young men. Kristoff was one of the last people we saw.
Wow.
He was just coming, he had kind of been out of acting for a while at that time and was quite reluctant to audition. and he was one of, like I said, maybe the last two to audition. And he just, he jumped off the screen, which was why when the show was canceled, I was so happy that he got picked up so fast by Bill Bell. He also recognized, what was tremendous potential of Kristoff. So that was made me very happy. But he had that kind of quality.
Kristoff made. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was just saying, Kristoff made my job really hard because a lot of our stuff was antagonistic, and I liked him so much, and it was just he was just such a nice guy and sweet guy. I got to work with him on Y&R. I did a reoccurring part on there, and it was just so great to hang with him again because he was just such a nice man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jonelle.
Well, I love how he was sweet. He was those things, but I remember wicked sense of humor, Chris. And like I said, we wrote lyrics to the Generation theme song. I don't think I can't sing on here. And and also when we had a very close relationship because I'm coming. I've been sober now 30 years, and
wow.
so
Congrats!
I was in the first. In fact, the premiere episode of Generation, March 27th, 1989. I was a year sober. March 7th, 1988 is my sobriety.
Oh wow!
And so and so for years I would get calls from Kristoff wanting to talk about life and things, and so and I've got to say, George DelHoyo, Kristoff loved you so much because George DelHoyo would speak the truth to Kristoff and be a little hard on him, and he needed that. And Kristoff absolutely respected you so much as an actor and as a person. And I wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Jonelle. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
And it's true. It's absolutely true. And the thing with Kristoff is that I loved him. I adored him. And sometimes I just wanted to wring his neck too. And I'm being extremely honest there. And
George, do you remember those conversations?
I do. I thank you, Jonelle, for saying that. That means a lot. I guess I hadn't focused on that until now. I mean, I just put that behind me, but now I realize that there's a lot of truth to what Jonelle is saying. I mean, Kristoff was young, and sometimes, we just needed to talk about stuff and what he needed to, what his responsibilities were in the scene or to other actors. And but he was such a generous spirit that he was open to that kind of counsel. And like I say, you just could not love Kristoff. There would be 10 years would go by and I hadn't seen Kristoff, and then all of a sudden we ran into each other, or he'd call or something. Somehow we connected, and it was as if no time had passed at all. We were immediately in each other's arms, embracing one another and laughing and smiling and just reveling in one another's presence. And it was as if, like I say, we had just seen each other a few days before. So yeah, special guy. But yes, we did have conversations about things. He was learning and figuring some things out. And as Jonelle says, there were some maddening aspects about him. I mean, you would literally, I'll see you in an hour or 2 hours, and then, well, where are you? And then, you know what I mean? It was like he was so funny that he was like in a parallel universe where things had different rules,
Also, because especially for me, coming from the theater, I would go off into my room. Rick will contest to this, and we would rehearse. We would rehearse our scenes all the time. And it became a joke in a way, because I would never rely, because in the morning we come in and there'd be the cards with our lines on stuff. And I had the thing of, I was not those cards. I just wasn't. And it became a joke that the cue card guys would have Doreen and it would just be blank under, because I would, and then I would go off and rehearse with my scene partners. And gradually Kristoff started doing that too. And a lot of people started doing that afterwards, because the thing is that coming from New York, and of course I had my head up my wazoo about soap operas. I did until I did one. And my respect for that genre, my respect for the actors who do it and are consistently hitting it out of the
hitting it out of the park.
My estimation about all of that went up so much, because the thing is like, yeah, if you're doing a time series, you're doing maybe 7 a day, where on daytime, 7 or 8 pages a minute. And I remember one episode they wrote for me where I'm like, Doreen's having an out-of-body experience, which is really quite wonderful, because I was newly sober. So it was really sort of interesting to be tapped into that stuff. And it was this long monologue. And it was such a gift. It was such a gift. So I just say kudos to people who do daytime.
Agreed, Jonelle. Agreed. We just spoke about Kristoff, and I know Nancy. You mentioned Anthony earlier, but any wonderful memories about Anthony that anybody wants to share?
How much time do we have? So many lovely memories. He just had this like laid back, fun, joyful, kind, strong presence, and going to work with him was like playing. It didn't feel like work. We just played. We played every day. I didn't have to worry about anything. I didn't have to think about anything. It was just there. And we spent the first, we spent some time not working together too, a little bit during those days.
Well, he was adorable, so why not?
Adorable, and we were young, and it was wonderful. I used to love traveling to do all those personal appearances with him. And we would just think, this is great. It's like this one long nonstop date, and they give us per diem and a limousine too.
Remember, they were very generous in those days.
Yes.
And you and I and Tony, we were in New York together.
Well, Jonelle, we went to, remember Baltimore, and we went to DC to the Congressional Black Caucus.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. It was. Yeah. And I have to say that was a great experience. And, initially we were hoping that the NAACP was going to, acknowledge, and I think they gave us a special plaque or something, but prior to that, they did not acknowledge it. After Sally and myself, so grateful I was a part of, did this junket and met with those people in Washington D.C. Now NAACP does acknowledge daytime television, and so I just feel I feel Generations was a foundation for shows that have come afterward. I mean, I think that Rick and I were Michelle and Barack, and before they were Michelle and Barack, they were teenagers, but Empire, which was Empire, and that show, and Tyler Perry's To Have and Have Nots, all of these shows that have come after, I really feel that Generation was a foundation for those shows, because prior to that, I mean, I remember people saying to me, wait a minute, and these were people of color saying, what do you mean these people have Harvard MBAs and blah blah, where are the real Black people? And unfortunately they found out during the Clarence Thomas Hill trials that there were Harvard MBAs. There were all of those people that Generation was talking about and depicting, but a few years before that.
Right.
And so it was like, oh yeah. And that was what was so terrific, so terrific about the show. And and I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just sorry it didn't go on. I wish we could do a Generations reboot.
The fans definitely agree. The fans definitely.
I think you could pick it up immediately. Yeah. In other words, is story-wise. I mean, obviously a network like a Peacock, who NBC owns the rights to the show, but the story-wise, you could just be 30 years later.
Exactly.
In other words,
what happened to those kids?
Yep. What happened to those kids?
What happened to those?
Somebody just has to, be interested in it. But
I'm sure Mimi Torchin, who's watching right now, would agree. She
was a huge supporter of the show.
Sends her love to everybody.
She's awesome, and of course, I don't know if everyone remembers, but she did a great guest spot on the show, which I think was a ton of fun for her, where she got to flash. She wore a fur coat and got to flash one of the characters, and I think she had but she was a huge supporter of the show and a huge supporter of daytime television and a real advocate.
100%.
Well,
I want before we, we're getting down to the wire, I want to talk about a few other things. Kelly, my last job before the pandemic hit was working for a TV and movie tour company called On Location Tours in New York. And we did the Gossip Girl Sites tour. So here you are, 20 years old, Generations. What do you think you learned that you took to Gossip Girl many years later? You said it was like, your first thing.
Well, a lot of gratitude for the experience of it. I felt like so safe working with the actors I worked with. And I think it was a real gift in terms of training. I mean, I didn't know anything about hitting my mark and saying my line and finding my light. I would literally go to parties on the weekend to see my friends, and I'd be like finding the light and hitting my. I mean, it was just like I was so young, and I didn't come from the theater. I don't come from the theater, so I didn't come in with all that sort of technique or understanding of that side of it. So it was such and I would again like Rick said, and everybody, like learning all those lines was such a gift too, to sort of, it's such good training. And then on top of it, to be working with actors that you respect and admire, that are giving you their gifts as actors, and their what they know, I mean, working with these wonderful actors who had so much experience was just to watch them and be able to act with them. I just learned so much. It was such a gift. So,
and your first scene with George, what do you think you learned working side by side with George?
I learned how to drink yerba mate. George.
Which is kind of a thing now.
No,
what is it called?
Every day. Yerba mate. So he'd come in with this thing, this tea, and he would drink it every day. And we'd sit and run our lines. And he was like Yoda. He was like a handsome, spiritual, evolved human, that you'd be working with. I'd be bouncing off the walls and, whatever. And he was just so focused and so zen. And it was such a beautiful experience. And again, I think a lot of it, as actors, I don't know if we would all feel this way, but certainly, if you feel safe with another actor, you're so much better. You feel like you can fully be all that you can be. And I really had that experience on Generations where,
it sounds from each
that.
one of you. The first thing Rick said about feeling safe with Jonelle, Bob said it, George said it, Nancy said it with Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a through line about it was this this unity and this sense of camaraderie and this sense of mutual support and affection, and we would delight in each other's scenes and each other's work, and we were always affirming one another. I have to, you have to credit you, Sally. You brought together the right people.
Absolutely.
You found the right people, and everyone brought something positive to the experience to enhance the whole. So, props to you for that.
Bob and Nancy, you both moved from New York. Was it worth the move?
Oh, definitely. It just, Generations was such a great training ground for prime time, and being in LA after it ended. I remember the first gig that I got after that was on an episodic, and I was blown away by the fact that people didn't know all their lines. Like
you're like, this is easy.
Aren't you so what's wrong? It's just one scene. Come on, get it together, folks. And that was a nice surprise. And then it just led for me personally. After Generations, Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada started to be a hot spot for filming. And I just found myself, everything I auditioned for would shoot in Vancouver. So I was like a yo-yo going back and forth, LA, Vancouver for like 8 years. And then finally I fell in love and got married and, stayed in Canada for the most part. And that's been a great thing for me. Yeah.
I want to say when Kelly and Nancy were younger, but they were so committed. I remember Kelly was going to acting classes every night and going to acting classes and studying and getting done at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, be up in the morning at the studio, and Nancy focused like that too. So I want to interject that into the conversation, because they weren't just airheads. No, they were very and they were studying all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell
I love you, Jonelle.
Thank you, Jonelle.
I love you.
Yeah,
Nancy, did you realize?
Say one more thing.
This was a great opportunity.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, George. I'll come back to that in a second.
Sure.
Nancy and Kelly, did you realize that was a great opportunity getting Generations at the time that you both got it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, I had a theater degree. I moved to New York to do theater, and then ended up on One Life to Live. And then my life was very East Coast. So I go East Coast like this because it's just, I don't know, on the East Coast, things seem more compact for some reason. And then when Generations came and I moved to Los Angeles, everything just expanded for me. My whole self, my whole a greater worldview. Life really began for me during Generations. Yeah. I grew up.
Yeah, I just was so excited to do it. I was so excited to work and to have this really fun part. And I was just excited to work and have the opportunity, really. For me, it was, and then to be able to work with all these great people. So it was a real blessing.
And George, sorry, please continue.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to circle back to something Kelly, you said about feeling safe, and that is really the critical thing about creativity. You have to feel safe to be able to create, to explore, and I just realized listening to all of you how true that was about our experience, and how rare that is. In fact. I mean, we used to watch each other's scenes, whether it be in the dressing room or in the makeup room or even on the set, and then we would we would say, that was great. That was fantastic. That was a wonderful scene. Well, you were great. You know, congratulations, whatever. We were just there for one another. And I've been on shows for a long time where no one says a word. No one. Now, it's not that you need to be praised, but you do. It feeds on itself to feel good, to feel safe, and to feel successful, and to feel that you're actually doing something worthwhile. And and it's like a family. You know, a healthy family affirms one another. And so, like I say, I've been on shows. No one's ever says anything. I never hear from writers. I never hear from producers. I never hear from directors. And they go, yeah, moving on. You know, and I go, okay, fine. You can do that. We can do that.
I'll be having my yerba mate in my trailer.
What's
You're
that?
like, oh my gosh. You're like, I'll be having my yerba mate in my trailer while you guys.
By the way, I'm going to have some later today.
We also had that fabulous Randy. Remember Randy?
Yes.
Randy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes.
Mavis.
I feel like they were like our wranglers in our immediate feedback.
Oh my God, they were amazing.
Randy,
Amazing.
if you blew it, Randy would be like, "Well, I know we're going to do that again."
Oh,
I know we talked about
great.
George and Kelly's towel scene and Jonelle and Vivica's cat fight. Is there any scene? I know this is a long time ago, but are there any scenes that stand out for whatever reason in your minds?
Yes, I have to say there was a scene that in fact it was the end of a story. So for like 14 days we would be in the same costume and George,
Oh my God.
George and I were solving the case. And at one point before we were going to do it, George and I went to the writers and said, our characters have never met. Remember? We were like, it was like, and it was great. It was like he shows up at my house and I'm like, come in and Rob and we're gonna solve the case. Meanwhile, we're like, our characters.
Who are you?
Ever met. And so we went to, I forget who we said this to, and they were like, really? Let's go back to the tapes. You're right. We were on the show at the same amount of time, but we'd never met. So it was like, George, you know, so the character comes to my door and says, hi, I'm Rob. And I said, I'm Doreen. It's so good to meet you. We've got to solve this thing. Remember?
So
I
funny.
do.
That
Now
was
that you
my
mention it,
favorite.
I do. Yeah. That was wonderful.
Great. Anybody else have anything that stands out?
Oh well, the two memories. Well, the scene of the whole was kind of like the arc of getting married and then having Jason die.
Right.
And I just remember just being very, very excited to do the scene, but also very nervous because I had to just, you know.
I always remember when he came back and he was the writers knew he was alive, but the character didn't, and you punched him.
Yeah, in the cabin, I think.
I think you punched him right in the face. It was great.
And then another great memory for me. It was towards the end of the show, and we were having a huge, glamorous party scene. Does everybody? I don't know if you. And the whole cast was there, so it took forever. And they were, you know, with champagne and everything. And I'll never forget a wonderful woman who was the props master. She had long brown hair. Does anyone? Anyway, it was getting very, very late into the evening. Maybe it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And so she thought it would be fun to serve everybody real champagne. Does anyone?
Oh my God.
We went on for hours and hours and hours. So we got very sleepy.
That spells trouble.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Those were the days, I guess.
I remember Vegas.
I know.
Remember Vegas, Sally and
Oh yes,
the Vegas stuff.
Vegas.
That was awesome.
My
Yes.
you
God.
guys
Over
jumping
the
on the
top.
bed with the
It was
money,
awesome.
with the
Yeah,
money,
the
and
money. I mean, and then when I opened the door and you were next door, remember Kelly?
right.
you came over to tell me to turn the music down. You had no idea I was there. I had no idea you were there.
Yeah.
I'm with another woman. You're with another guy. I opened the door. I'm shocked. I mean, that was beautiful. That whole section, Sally, was amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah, it's funny what comes back. You start to really remember a lot of different storylines, shorter stories, incidents, certain scenes. I particularly remember very powerful scenes with Joan Pringle and Jonelle, Ruth and Doreen, that were very emotional, very heavy, that you can see some of them on YouTube. I remember the Martin Luther King Day episodes we did where Ruth and her mother Vivian weren't speaking. A lot of things stand out in my mind when Jason died and Monique, having to deal with that and how he was poisoned, and George and Kelly. George had dreaming of Kelly in the lingerie coming to life.
Oh my God.
That was, Kyle and Kelly's romance, the friction that they had, Rick getting audited by the IRS and putting cocaine in Kristoff's car, Adam's car, Jonelle and Adam meeting at the clothing store and having their affair. There were so many pieces that I remember that I think of them. I'm very proud that we had such a great writing team and directing team and producing team and this amazing cast. I feel very blessed to even have been part of it.
I scene with Brandon.
What, Jonelle?
I love doing the scene with Brandon Tartikoff as the bellboy.
As the nosy bellman.
That's great.
He loved being on the show.
Take my bags.
He loved being on the show, and he loved being the nosy bellman in the hotel. He did a couple of episodes, but that last one, and I'll never forget, he said one day on the set, he goes, "This is really hard." This is really hard.
You can all attest. Bob and Rick, does anything stand out in your minds? Scenes wise?
I just realized I have the same hair. So no, this actually I'm working on a new musical. It's called Blood Rock.
Oh yeah.
And so during the pandemic, I just didn't cut my hair, and now it's like, oh. But I think what I'm going to do with the hair is in March, we do a thing out here for St. Baldrick's Foundation. It's for kids with cancer. So I need to grow it another 2 or 3 inches, and I'll shave it all off, and they'll make a wig. Give the hair and they make wigs from it. So
that's amazing.
Nice.
My memories. I had the best apartment. I'm sorry, you all lose. I had the best apartment. Warehouse.
That's right. You had the fire pole, right?
And the pinball machine, and also my office beat all your offices. So just back off.
The sets were awesome.
Yeah,
amazing.
He had
the production values were top notch. Yeah, it was great. I also want to say, Sally, you did this great thing, which I love in writing when there's always on the other hand, and you would write something. And so much of the time you see, particularly in cancel culture, it's now you would write, this professor's doing this thing he shouldn't do. On the other hand, you would write, it's not as cut and dry. It's not as black and white. These are human beings who are, yes, making terrible mistakes and driven by desire and passion, but it's not so simple. And I was thinking about this, Sally, because I'm watching Impeachment, and it's really wonderful the way they, the story, obviously, but they're humanizing people, and it's not so simple. There's a lot of pieces at play. And so whenever I hear a speech from an actor in a scene and I hear, wow, I agree with that, and then the writer gives me the other side, somebody else giving an equally valid argument, that's thrilling to me as a viewer. And I think that you guys did that. You did that with everything.
We had a certain freedom then to explore, again, given our mission statement by NBC, by Brandon in particular. We were learning too, as we were going along, it takes time to evolve these shows. If we had had one more year, things would have been very different. But, a lot of things happen that are out of our control, behind the scenes, money issues with NBC, affiliate issues.
And we didn't talk about the time slot. I mean, you were up in many markets against Young and the Restless and
or All My Children on the network that had the least amount of support from its stations too. Right. So it was an uphill climb, and a half hour versus an hour. Although I love the half hour format. Bill Bell used to always say, leave the audience wanting more. And I felt that you could do that with the half hour. So I didn't feel that was necessarily a hindrance. It was more the lack of consistent time period.
No, I was saying that we were up against the second half hour of those shows where everything usually got wrapped up.
If we had have started, like at the top of the hour with all of the other shows, as opposed to being in the second half of our shows, it may have been a different story. But to me, it was like people were telling me we were canceled and we'd only been on the air for like 2 days. I mean, it was like somebody called me and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry you got canceled." No, I got another wig. I didn't get no. And so it was that kind of it was almost like insanity, really.
Well, we talked about this briefly backstage. I mean, how do you think social media would have changed the possibilities for generations?
Dramatically, Alan, dramatically. When the show was canceled, there was an enormous letter writing campaign. I mean, enormous. I know, it didn't get attention, but it did at NBC. And all I kept thinking about, if that had been 5 years later, 6 years later, social media, I think, would have changed the game. I mean, there was nothing like Generations on in daytime at that time. There is nothing like Generations on today. In daytime, really, correct me if I'm wrong, there may be something in prime time. I mean, there's so many shows, I don't know. But it seems to me that had we had a social media following, look, Alan, just you putting this reunion on social media, you saw how quickly it spread. I mean, I hope
social media that made me do it. They kept, tweeting me, knowing that I was doing this locker room, that they wanted me to do it. And that's why I reached out. I was
thrilled when you did. And I was surprised and happy. And I hope our friends who around the world who like the show, in Turkey, in Poland, and other places of Europe.
You reminded me, I want to hear Kelly's story of going to Turkey.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. It was incredible. I mean, what a beautiful place in the world. I must have past lives there or something, because it was a very unique, magical experience. And the fact that, Sally had written that storyline with my father going to Turkey and me going to look for my father or wondering who my father was really impactful. So it was incredible. And I now have many friends from Turkey. It was wild.
Weren't you mobbed though on the street? Weren't you wasn't there an incident?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was funny because my mother and I arrived, I think I was 24, 25, I don't know. Anyway, and we arrived and they kept saying, stand, holding us back. And we got kind of concerned because, we're like two, women in a foreign country, I was young, hadn't traveled too much. And all of a sudden we realized why, it was because there were, I don't even know how many people there who absolutely loved the show and loved the character. So I can't even describe it. It was just so magical. It was incredible. And yeah.
Yeah. And I was in Tahiti and I'd gotten off of the plane in Papeete and I was going to take, it was, whatever. But I was by myself. And so I'm going to, get the little plane to go to Moorea. And so you fill out, things or whatever, whatever you fill out. And I'm giving them my, and they're checking me in. And the guy looks at me and he says, actrice. And I'm like, yes, oui. And so, and so anyway, and at that time I was on Dr. Quinn. And so I was like, oh, oui, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. And they're like, no. And then he went, Doreen. And
Doreen.
Doreen. And I was like, oh, yes. And they said, oh, where's Adam? And I'm like, and I'm trying to explain, no, that was a part I played. And I said, he's not here. Oh, yes, because Martin must not know. I mean, Generations was a big hit in France. And so it played on French television.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Tahiti, it was just like, so by the time I got to Moray, it was like, Doreen. Yep.
That's got to be fun,
great.
though, for you guys. That has to be a lot of fun.
Similar thing when I was in Rome, and this was years after the show was canceled, maybe 6 or 7 years later. And I was out with my friend, and we were walking, and we got to this bridge, and there was this huge group of Polish tourists, like a school group or something. And all of a sudden, someone yells, I don't know how you say it in Polish, but Monica, and I'm like, no, you know, and all of a sudden, all these kids ran over the bridge and started running towards me and my girlfriend's like, what's going on? And I didn't speak Polish, and we just had to they pantomimed it, and they were so excited, and there were a lot of them, and it just blew me away because it had been so many years later.
Mm-hmm.
I had that happen on 3rd Street in Santa Monica here. I was walking down 3rd Street with my wife, who was Argentinian, who taught me how to drink mate too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking down the street, and there was this big group of people coming towards me going, Martin. And I said, oh, is this where it all ends? You know? And no, they just came over and just wanted to take pictures. And it was just like they were from Turkey.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun.
Well, here we are 30 years after the show went off the air.
And none of us look a day older, right?
not at all. Fans are commenting on the side how much they would love to see a revival. They want the Peacock streaming platform to start airing episodes. You have truly made everyone's day. Before I let you all go, let's all smile. I'm going to take a picture of us all here together. I'll count us down. Ready, everybody? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you all so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see everybody.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Bob,
my gosh.
Nancy.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
This is really fantastic, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to all the fans out there who would like to see it revived, get on your little Twitters and your Instagrams and just bombard Peacock, I guess, or NBC. Yeah, thanks, Bob. It would be a lot of fun if we could
show the episodes of Gulch. That would be really great.
Listen, the show still holds up very well. I mean, when I look, I have to say, and that's again credit to our production and directors. And again, I love the writing team. God bless them all. Tom, Michelle, Elizabeth, Bruce. It was just a great. I don't know. It was a great time.
Such a great time.
It'd be fun to see what happened to all of these characters, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think about it. I think about it often, George. Where
George, where do you think your character would be, George?
Well, the last time we saw Rob, he was heading to Hollywood to shoot the film of his book.
Correct.
And that would be really fascinating to see what happened to him in Hollywood, what he became. I don't know. I have a feeling he's never forgotten Sam. And I would like I say, I don't know exactly where he ended up, but I think it probably went pretty well for him out there. But he's got his demons, and it would be fun to see. I would love to see what happened to everyone.
Does anybody else have ideas where they think Kelly, where Sam is?
She followed Rob for sure. She followed him. She's running hotels and I don't know.
Nancy, Monique.
Oh, I see Monique with at least 3 children.
Yeah.
It's a very successful publishing house. Just kind of carrying on the Whitmore McCallum dynasty. as the matriarch, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
Rick, would Martin still be alive if he's the villain?
I think Martin would be president of Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think
No, I
that's
think
where I got
Martin-
on the plane. Am I right about that? I went to Brazil.
Yeah, but Martin
Yeah.
was like, Martin had 9 lives, he was
Yeah.
resourceful. Martin was never going to be down for long.
No, it's either Brazil presidency or missionary work.
Yeah.
And Bob, what about you?
I think Kyle probably retired, took a lot of vacations, and then ended up at the wrong place at the right time and saved a lot of people by accident. I don't know.
And Doreen?
The governor
Jonelle?
of Illinois.
I didn't hear what you said.
The governor of Illinois. Working towards becoming the president, or at least manipulating people who want to be president.
These are fantastic
I
ideas.
love it.
In politics,
Great.
without a doubt.
Interesting. Okay, I like that.
Thank you so
Super
much, everybody,
perfect.
for spending the time
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you, Alan,
Thank
very
you,
much.
Alan.
Everybody.
Well, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great to see everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Sally, before I let you go, I know some fans were asking. Let me find the question.
Sure.
Were Linda Gibney, Dorothy Lyman, and Debbie Morgan recasts all network decisions to try and boost ratings? Or would you have liked to have stuck with the original 3 actors?
Okay, they came in at different times. Debbie Morgan, who played Chantal, was a fantastic recast. Jorn Winther, who had come on the show as executive producer with me, had come from All My Children. He recommended Linda Gibney and Dorothy Lyman. Debbie Morgan, I picked. I wanted her for the part of Chantal. She's a very strong young African-American actress.
Sure.
Still fabulous actress.
Yeah.
Working a ton still, so I'm very happy. Dorothy Lyman was the recast from Patricia Crowley. That was Jorn Winther's recommendation for her. I wouldn't say any of them were necessarily designed to boost ratings. I never believed that an actor necessarily would boost ratings. To me, it was always the characters.
Story.
And the story. It's always nice, though, to have familiar faces.
Right.
Again, those were the network really wanted those 2 parts recast. The Jessica role that Linda Gibney played, I would have preferred not necessarily to recast that role, but I didn't feel it was a detriment. Linda did a terrific job. Dorothy Lyman was only really on for a relatively short time, if I'm not mistaken. James Reynolds was also a recast to play the part of Henry from Tori and Black. And James Reynolds had come from Days of Our Lives. And now is back.
That was a question a few people had. So thank you for answering. Thank you for playing the piano earlier.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome, Sally. Stay well. Stay in touch.
You too, Alan. Thanks a lot.
And I'll be in touch. I'm going to send you Mimi's contact information.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay. She asked me to
Take
do
care.
that. Bye. Thanks, everybody. I hope all of you Generation fans who were asking enjoyed today's show. Thank you, Jonelle Allen. I'm so glad we were able to get your sound and video working. George DelHoyo, Rick Fitz, Kelly Rutherford, Nancy Sorel, Robert Torti, and Sally Sussman. Thank you all so much. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, do so down below. Turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. Don't miss tomorrow's show when I have Mary O'Leary, the producer and director of the Dark Shadows Jonathan Frid documentary, here with actress Marie Wallace. Have a great day, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.